how soon into the war was your husband drafted?
He left November 13th, 1942. He left Flandreau, and then he was stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma for a year, and then he went to California for maneuvers. And in February of 1944, he left by ship for overseas. And then on July 23rd, 44, he was captured.
Where was he stationed when he was captured, and how long was he a prisoner for?
He was a prisoner for 7 months, and he was stationed in England and left England on the 16th of July and went into France. And in France is where he was captured.
What was that time like for you? Did you know that he was still alive, or were you uncertain whether he was in prison or maybe killed? What was going through your mind?
No, I didn't know, and it was just that I didn't hear from him because we wrote every day, and I knew he was in England. And then when I didn't hear, and I thought, I just wondered. And he had, when he was first went into the service, he had sent me addresses and phone numbers of wives and mothers of others who he was stationed with, and so that helped. I contacted them, and of course they hadn't experienced the same thing. So then I contacted the Red Cross and finally got a telegram that he was missing in action. And then it seemed like a long time, and we got word he was a prisoner of war, but we didn't know where or what, except it was Germany. And I still wrote to him. There were special cards that I could write on to the prison camp, but he didn't ever hear from me, and we got one card from him all the time. The mail got. I kept writing when I could, but the mail didn't get to him.
How did you cope during that time?
Well, I had a lot of support, family support, and support from friends. And like I said, I wrote to other people and tried to put pieces together, I guess. And then my dad heard that this bus or the shipload of prisoners from Stalag 3C, and the government kept me posted on the prison camps he was in, and he was in Stalag 3C. And the report came over the radio that they had landed in New York Harbor, and the band had played Don't Fence Me In when they landed. So we kind of figured maybe he was in the United States, but we didn't hear then. That was in April, and then we didn't hear from him until the last of May when he got closer to home and got home.
What was that moment for you like when he was finally home and you were finally reunited?
Well, that was great. And our little boy then was 3 years old, and he was 6 weeks old when Claire left. So it was just unbelievable. And we enjoyed it. But then he wasn't discharged until the following November. And then when he did get discharged and came home, then there was the problem of knowing what to do and where we were going to live and what he would do for life's work.
So how did you make that transition? Was it easy or was it kind of difficult?
It was difficult. And we tried different things. And I guess through our friends and family, we worked it out.
So during this time, what kind of changes in your day-to-day life had to be made because America was in this war?
Oh, really, I don't think the public, the United States people suffered that much. We just had to go without certain things, but we substituted, and we had a lot to be thankful for. And I was thankful. My sister, who was also living with my parents, was teaching in Egan, South Dakota at the time. She'd go to school every day, but she got gas to go to school, and really the rationing didn't affect us that much. We noticed it, and there were substitutes and things we couldn't buy, but we got by.
Did you know about the war prior to Pearl Harbor, or was it something that really wasn't talked about much until that moment?
Oh yes, we knew about it. Our own, we had the National Guards here from Flanders. Yes, we talked about the war, and I was teaching at the time, and we talked about it at school, and the school children were very aware of it. I was teaching rural school, all 8th grades, and the papers were carried the stories, so we knew. We heard on radio the reports, so I was aware of it.
Do you remember where you were when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I was. I think I was with my future husband, and we were just headed down to where my folks. We weren't married yet.
Did you kind of have an idea that it would grow this big, or weren't you really concerned about it at the time?
Well, I was concerned, but I didn't ever think it would grow this big, and I didn't know much about the service and what would happen, and I certainly didn't know anything about war prisoners, and so it was a lot of new experiences, a lot of prayers, and our church really covered it well. They reported in the bulletin each time about the different members of our church and where they were, and the newspapers covered it well too, and I would read about different people who had someone who was a prisoner of war or had similar experiences, and then write to them. So we made new friends that way too.
Now, was your husband drafted or did he enlist?
He was drafted.
Into what branch of the service was he drafted?
He was in the field artillery in the Army.
What do you want people today to know about your experience and what you went through?
Well, really, I didn't go through so much. I know he did. They went through a lot. They had to deal with, and the prison camp wasn't nice, but the prisoner of war organization, which I still belong to, helped him a lot, and we got new friends that way too, and it was something. I guess it tells us that we can cope with things if we try, and we can resort to prayer for everything.
What was life like in the prisoner camp? Did he talk to you about it much?
He didn't until after we really joined this prisoner of war club, and then he began to talk more about it, and what he was interested in was finding out what happened to those who were captured with him that he didn't ever hear from, and he heard about quite a few of them, and they didn't get much food. The Red Cross parcels kept them alive, and Red Cross would send food and even a blanket once in a while, and the Red Cross seemed to get to them where no one else could. And my sister and I did knitting of vests and that. We would send it to the Red Cross because we knew they could get it to those who needed it, which they did. And his life in the prison camp was something I'm sure all of them wanted to forget.
Are there any other stories from the war that really stick out in your mind?
Stories from the war about, well, we met several friends, and I'm still in contact with them. And then they did have reunions of the prison camp, and we belong to the National Prisoner of War Organization. and contact them by phone, but we've been to some of the meetings, and they've done a great deal for the ex-prisoners of war and their families. And our local Sioux Falls chapter just had a special recognition, and it's nice to talk with the others who were, some of them, the prisoners themselves are still living, and it was good to contact them and visit with them a little bit.
What do you think that we need to remember most about World War II?
Oh, well, it was supposed to be the war to end wars, but the most, I think we found out we can deal with life, with problems, and there's a way to get by, and we can be thankful for our many blessings. It wasn't easy for anybody who took part in it, I guess, but it was. We can be thankful for many things.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, I just was on the home front. We had a lot of new words that came up that we didn't have before, and our draft board and the furloughs and the different expressions, I think, had come up. We got a new vocabulary about the war, and we have many memories of the on the home front. I think we on the home front were just very fortunate that our country wasn't affected, and it's nice to look back on.